of writing and recording this landmark album. So we're going to hear from vocalist Corey Taylor next. He's going to tell us all about the band's aspirations going into the studio, about their approach to the writing and the recording process, and also about where they were at as a band at this point in time. Corey.
As far as the approach for the album, we knew that we wanted to basically set fire to the sophomore curse, the second album curse, you know. We knew that we wanted to go completely 180 of what everyone was expecting us to do. You know, everyone expected us to put out an album full of Wait and Bleeds, you know, or you know, a bunch of Spit It Outs and stuff like that, and really lighten up and make it more of a Vegas show, really, you know. And that's not what we wanted to do. We wanted to shove in people's faces that we were, you know, one of the heaviest, if not the heaviest band at the time. And that's really where the germination for just that dark sound came from, was just us basically putting our foot down and going, we're in charge of our own destiny, not you. You don't get to call our shots. We get to call our shots. So in spite of all of the like the dark moods that we were in, you know, because of various chemicals or alcohol, or just because of our relationships with, you know, our old management or each other, we at least had that we were all on the same page for, you know, like, I mean, that really kind of drew us together, and helped us get excited about it. Because you gotta remember, I mean, we went right from the road into working on this album, and we had been gone for almost 2 years. So we were really ready to take the next step and basically bury all the people who were trying to detract from us.
Corey Taylor from Slipknot there, telling us all about his band's intentions when they went into the studio to record their second album, Iowa, back in 2001. Here's Corey Taylor to tell us about the title, Iowa.
That title really was about wearing where we were from as a badge of honor, you know, because, I mean, we'd lived our whole lives with this, you know, this almost like a stigma of coming from Iowa, and people immediately assume, oh, you know, you got a farm, do you have running water, do you have electricity, and blah, 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 and, you know, just this long, like, even South Park had this joke that Des Moines, Iowa was like 5 years behind with the rest of the world, basically, and that really pissed us off. You know, it's like, look, you know, we may come from the middle of nowhere, but that doesn't mean we don't know anything. You know, that we don't have a sense of who we are and what we want to do. And really just, it was more about kind of showing that intelligent dark side of us. You know, just showing the whole world that we weren't going anywhere. And this was our statement. You know, it was basically kind of shoving the dirty, naughty past of Iowa up to the forefront and just letting people sit in that for a while. And I think it was very effective. It was definitely the right thing to do, you know, because, I mean, all the titles that we had kind of come up with just didn't work. And when somebody hit on, I think it was Clown and Joey were the ones that hit on calling the album Iowa. And I was just like, that's perfect. And, I mean, that's just, you know, the rest is history.
We're going to hear from frontman Corey Taylor, who's going to divulge a bit of information, not just on the internal pressures that were going on in the band, but also the external pressures which he felt as well.
Well, I just remember several conversations, you know, like walking in on several conversations of people who thought they knew what was best for us, and people who thought they knew what the band should do next and whatnot. And I just remember looking at them and going, you're not in the band. You don't get a say in this. You haven't walked in our shoes. You don't know what this band is about. You don't know where we've been. So, you know, thank you kindly, but just get the out of my face, you know. And that was galvanizing, you know, and I think we needed that at the time. You know, there were so many things that were threatening to pull us apart that we needed that to basically kind of band us together and make us bulletproof and really get us on the same page. So we went into the writing process, or pre-production basically, with that mentality that we were going to eat the world, and there was nothing that anyone could do about it. And we were going to write the kind of music we wanted to play. going to do everything that we wanted to do, you know?
About where he was at psychologically, the kind of space he was inhabiting during the recording of this album.
Making that album was pretty hectic for me, man. You know, I was really kind of starting to slip into the grip of a pretty healthy drinking problem. Let's put it that way. In a lot of ways, I wasn't happy where I was in my personal life. I wasn't happy with a lot of things about myself, you know, and I think that kind of reflected in the lyrics that I was writing and just my approach to everything. So I was kind of, you know, I hadn't really taken the plunge yet, but I was definitely on the verge of just saying F it and just either walking away or setting fire to it. So this was definitely something good for me to hold on to. You know, it was good. It was something good for me to kind of, you know, dig my heels into and help focus me, you know, and especially being into the music as much as I was. I mean, it was so ready to just shred everything that it felt good to kind of let out some of that pent-up aggression. And, it was almost like a pressure valve, you know. It let me release for a while, but eventually it caught up to me later.
Corey Taylor there, and I also wanted to know how he got some of the sounds which you hear on this album out of his voice, some of the unique sounds which sounds like a demented subhuman being. I asked if there was any sort of special physical process he went through to achieve these sounds.
I don't know what my throat does sometimes. Like, it almost has a mind of its own, and I just kind of let it happen. But, I didn't really do anything, you know. I mean, the one thing that I tried to do was I tried to get healthy for it, you know. Like, I was about 25 pounds overweight at the time, and I was really trying to kind of get my collective shit together. And so I quit smoking, quit drinking for almost 3 weeks, and I noticed that I didn't sound the same. It was weird. So basically, I was like, well, this isn't working for me. So I started smoking and drinking again, and lo and behold, my voice came back. It came back darker than it was, and I was like, all right, we got something here, you know. I didn't have a lot of the range, melodically speaking, that I'd had in a while, and I think that was the alcohol. But at the time, I was completely okay with just kind of barreling through a lot of the screaming stuff and you know, trying to reach for the melodic stuff later.
We haven't mentioned him yet. We can't do a show based around this album without mentioning him. He was kind of like the unofficial 10th member of Slipknot for a while. He was also pretty much the godfather of new metal music, one of the most important and prominent producers of the last 2 decades, particularly in metal. I'm talking, of course, about Ross Robinson, producer of Iowa, and here's Corey Taylor to tell us more.
Ross flew in to Iowa and came down to the place where we were rehearsing. And he basically kind of got us all, he was the one that really started to kind of get us mobilized, you know, because we kind of had bits and pieces and whatnot that we were working on. But until Ross got there, it was really more of a collection instead of a cohesion. And when he came down there, man, he started really kind of putting things in its place and helping us really frame up the album and frame up the songs and whatnot. And you remember at the time I had laryngitis, so I couldn't even sing. So I'm listening to all this great music going, God, I've got great parts and I can't do anything, you know. It was very, very frustrating for me. But, you know, once Ross, you know, I kind of described to him what I had going on, and he got really excited about that. And then, you know, obviously when we went to L.A. to record the album, he was with us every day. You know, I mean, he was there from the minute we pulled in to the minute we took off. And even with a broken back, he was there. I remember him laying on a mattress next to me in the big live room while I'm cutting vocals, and he can't walk, let alone do anything else, but he's screaming up towards me. He's like, yeah, and with a broken back, and I'm just kind of pouring into this microphone. It was surreal, man. Like, he was our dark little cheerleader, man. He really helped us find something. Plus his ear for just sick tone and aggressive vibe is unparalleled.
It's your turn. What for you is the lasting legacy of this album?
I would say it's the heaviest album to come out in the last 10 years, you know? I mean, it's the heaviest album to come out in 10 years. And before that, probably another 5. It's so destructive, but it's so... The great thing is it's just so modern sounding. I mean, you could release Iowa today and people wouldn't know the wiser. You know, I mean, I love the fact that an album that heavy, it really has that kind of sense of timelessness to it. And makes me proud, you know. I mean, there was a long time I couldn't listen to that album because it took me so deep into the darker side of where I was going at the time that I just couldn't listen to it. I mean, it was so brutal and so sick that it was hard for me. And then slowly but surely I kind of started to listen to it more and more. And, it's one of my proudest moments, honestly, because, I mean, there's just such naked aggression on it. And there's such a unique sense of dark that I don't think anybody's ever really captured. And we did, you know. So I'm really proud of not only what I've done, but of what the guys did, man. We shot for the moon, and we basically blew it to smithereens.
I like that, man. So we're going to take a short break. Is there anything you'd like to say?
The great thing about Slipknot is that there's no way to really know where we're going as far as like music goes and where like musically and creatively. So every album is really a statement of where we're at. So it's hard for me to compare each album to each other. You know, everything's it's almost like footsteps. You know, I mean the first Slipknot album was One Foot Down. Iowa was a second. Volume 3 was a third. All Hope Is Gone, and so on. So for me, it's about where we're going rather than where we've been. And I think to me, Iowa, if I had to compare it to anything, I think it would be that strong foothold climbing up the mountain. You know, it's that last step before you get the good grip at the top of the hill and you pull yourself up. I think that was what we needed at the time. You can see little bits of where we were planning to go on that album, and just the fact that we got to go there is brilliant. You know, I mean, if it wasn't for Iowa, we wouldn't have been able to make Volume 3. You know, we wouldn't have been